Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 78 of Eat, Drink, Write, an Urban Fantasy Whiteboard. And we're going to talk about character flaws today,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I went back and looked. I can't believe we haven't done an overall episode on character flaws.
I was thinking the same thing. And, I've been so busy for the past, I don't know, 2 weeks since we got back from vacation that, you said, hey, let's do character flaws. And I was like, really? Like, we had to have done this before. And I was like, but you know what? I'm going to trust her on it. So,
Yeah, we talked about specific character history, the childhood trauma,
mm-hmm.
but that's the only thing I could find on character flaws. So I don't think we've done this because I learned stuff today. So I don't think that we have, because I would have, of course, my memory, I might have learned it before and forgotten it. So
Hey, me too. I feel like grad school has stolen a lot of my brain. So,
yeah, law school did that to me long, long time ago. My
oh, yeah.
handwriting and my brain.
Luckily, I just type everything, so I don't do too much handwriting.
Yeah, when I try to, no one can read. I can't even read it. I'll go back and go, what the hell was I trying to say?
Yeah, yeah.
But how was your week? You said busy.
Oh, busy. Very, very busy. I've just been go, go, go. And it's the thing where it's like I'm so busy that I can't even tell you like what I've been doing because I don't remember everything. Like it's been
Yeah,
that busy.
yeah.
So my day has been jam-packed every single day, I think, since vacation, where it's just like I had experiments planned and had to cancel them because I just didn't have time,
Aw,
yeah, to do
that's
them.
the fun
So
part of science.
I know, I know. Well, and then we also, so our carbon dioxide went down yesterday, which means all of our cells died. Uh-huh. So that was, and everybody's been pestering me about, I fixed it, like it's fixed now, but we lost all of our cells. And everybody's been like, hey, can you thaw these for me? Hey, can you thaw these for me? And I'm like, yes, I can, but like chill, like make sure that things are good first before I
Mm-hmm.
thaw. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
mini rant about work. That's how my week has been, essentially, is that story, just apply it to everything.
Well, I
So,
suppose I should first of all say I'm sorry that this is a day late.
yeah.
I was sick yesterday. I'm having some kind of female issues that they don't
Female issue.
know if it's because of the vaccine or if it's just because I'm old and decrepit or what.
Yeah.
So it could be cancer, might not be cancer, might be nothing. Like great
Yay.
range of options there. So I'm in the process of doing that. But yesterday I was in a whole bunch of pain and I just couldn't. I didn't even go to court. That's the first time
Oh, wow.
I have ever in my career that I can think of missed court from being sick.
Wow.
I couldn't
Yeah.
do it.
No, that's
So,
intense.
yeah, that was my week. Last week, of course, was the chaos court, and I'm trying to recover from that. I did enjoy the weekend. It was a nice, calm, relaxing weekend where I didn't look at any kind of court anything. So, of course, then I
Good.
paid for it yesterday because I was sick and couldn't do work. So now I'm behind again.
Well, there is that, but at least you had one good weekend.
I did. It was a nice weekend. We sat out on the deck. We watched soccer. We're into the watching the
Oh, yeah.
Copa something. There's two different soccer leagues, and I'm not totally up on it. I just like watching it. I like
Yeah.
soccer. But anyway, what are you eating and drinking?
So I'm not eating anything yet, but I will eat dinner after this, so I didn't want to spoil dinner, but so my girlfriend and I made the most bomb ass burrito bowls
Mm.
ever this past weekend. So that's probably what I'm going to be eating.
So what's a
Um,
burrito bowl?
Oh, so I used my Instant Pot, but the recipe that she had looked up was a crock pot recipe, and I adapted it to Instant Pot.
Okay.
And I just cooked chicken in salsa and this cilantro lime dressing.
Mm.
My mouth is watering
I
now.
can tell.
Uh, in my Instant Pot, and then you shred the chicken after it's done, and then you put that on top of rice and like beans and whatever you want, anything that would normally go in a burrito. Just stick it in a bowl, so you don't have to worry about
Oh,
carbs. So it was like very healthy because it was just seasoned with salsa and like that kind of
oh,
things.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we're going to probably go to Fernando's tonight. Well, they're talking about it. I don't feel very well. Daughter
yeah,
number one is in visiting for the night.
yeah.
So she's dropping off her cat And then she's flying out to LA. So we get to cat sit. We're still doggy sitting the number three's dog. So we're a house full of animals right now.
I'm gonna bring mine in like 2 weeks.
I know, I'm not quite sure how that's gonna work with can Rue and baby and cat son be in the same?
I don't know.
I don't know either. We'll deal with that later. The issues, trials and tribulations of being grandparents to animals.
Yes.
So what did you say you were drinking?
Oh, I didn't.
Oh.
I'm drinking a vodka soda, but it's got green tea in it.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Is it good?
It's delicious.
I like the cup too with the rainbow.
Yeah. Well, especially
It's
for Pride Month.
Pride Month. Yeah. I love it.
I think, sorry to interrupt you. My girlfriend got those cups. We got a matching set last year during Pride Month at one of the breweries here. So.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Very neat. Yeah, I'm drinking my Keto Cosmopolitan, which is the splash of cranberry juice, lots of vodka, lime, and then the tangerine liqueur to make it bubbly.
Yeah.
And it's very light and refreshing. Feels good. And then they're saying we might go out and eat Mexican. So I don't know.
Yum,
I told them to pick up something and bring it back to me because I don't really want to go out and face people.
Yeah, that's fair.
But anyway, so I have some jokes.
Okie dokie. Let's hear them.
So I tried to come up with flaw jokes, so they're not the greatest. What is the biggest flaw with the new Apple iCar?
Oh, geez, what?
Installing Windows.
Oh, God.
that one was kind of funny.
Yeah.
On being told of the numerous flaws in my writing, me, you mean I've been writing wrongs? WRITING wrongs. And at least that's
a good one.
Writing related.
Right.
You know, with all his flaws, Dr. Frankenstein was really popular. He really knew how to bring people together.
Oh, God. I like that one. That one was good.
Yeah, I like that one too. Okay, so character flaws. And we'll probably do many episodes on different character flaws.
Like specific ones.
Yeah, because there are so many, but I can't believe we haven't done an overall episode on this. So character flaws they're useful tools in creating a character that's believable and relatable, which we talk about over and over and over again.
All the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's an undesirable quality that gives the character an opportunity to grow, another way to make them relatable. Flaws can also create tension and friction, and that can challenge their advancement.
Oh, that's true. I didn't really think about it that way, but absolutely.
Helps with conflict which you need to move on your story.
Right, and engage your readers.
Mm-hmm. It is a bias, limitation, imperfection, problem, personality disorder, vice, phobia, prejudice, or deficiency present in a character who may otherwise be very functional.
Wow, it's a long list of things.
I liked that definition. I think that might have been the Wikipedia definition.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that was pretty good.
It was all encompassing.
It adds complexity, depth, and humanity to your characters.
Which I feel like is a must for all of them.
Definitely. There are 3 types of flaws, and I came across this over and over and over again. It seems to be established that it's 3 types: major, minor, and lethal.
Which, I think that's funny because, as I was doing my research, I came across this too, but I had never thought of character flaws as, 3 different categories of flaws. Like that's a very new way of looking at it for me. Mm-hmm. I guess I've never done research on character flaws before. My characters just like have their
flaws. Yeah.
Right. So this was a really interesting way to think about it. And so like, as I'm trying to come up with new characters, I can absolutely see how I would implement these categories of flaws.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So specifically, the major character flaws directly impair the character either physically, mentally, or morally. Mm-hmm. They're not necessarily bad, but they're considered flaws because they limit a character in some way.
Gotcha. Okay.
So like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, his hunchback was a quote unquote flaw. Right. Shyness can be considered a flaw.
Right.
Recurring illness can be considered a flaw. I remember in the very first it wasn't urban fantasy, it was D&D fantasy. Basically, the character Raceland, who was a mage, he is very frail,
Mm,
and it ex- it takes a lot out of his body to do the magic that he wants to do. And so
right.
that was something that it was a flaw that he had to deal with in everything. And it impacted everything that he did. Whereas his
Right.
brother was this big, hardy, hale,
Burly man, I
mm-hmm,
guess. Yeah.
mm-hmm. A minor flaw is an imperfection that has minimal impact on a character's life. So to me, these are the fun ones. These are the
Yeah.
quirky ones that, they can have these quirky habits that endear them to the reader, but it doesn't affect their life, so to speak.
Right.
Like I remember when I used to read romances all the time, Julie Garwood, The Bride, is one of my favorite all-time romance novels. And her character, the main character, has a horrible sense of direction.
Oh, I see. Okay. So quirky habits like that where you
Yeah.
okay.
And it's a flaw because she doesn't know where the hell she's going half the time, but it's cute and it's funny and it's endearing. And I know I've gone out to the parking lot and gone, where the heck is my car? you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
and so I can relate to that. It made her realistic to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cause I was trying to think of examples myself, and didn't really Google any, but I was thinking, something like messiness, like having
Hmm.
just like a cluttered house and, you're going through all the papers and I could just see a character being like, I know I left this somewhere and they've got like 5 stacks of paper. It's like, it's in one of these stacks somewhere.
Yes, or biting your fingernails.
Right.
And
Right.
think how that might lead to self-consciousness in someone. They're being thrown into this situation, perhaps at a glamorous party, and they're noticing all these gorgeous long fingernails, and theirs are chewed to the nubs.
Right. Right.
And it's something that we as the reader can understand, feeling out of place, and so that connects us to that character. We understand her embarrassment and her self-consciousness.
Right.
um,
Right.
and
Absolutely.
then there is the lethal, or there's another term I saw out there, tragic.
Tragic. Tragic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flaw, which is one that leads to a character's downfall or death. It's a deficiency that a character has that they are unable to ultimately overcome.
Yeah, and the one that I was like thinking of for this was excessive pride. Pride that leads you to be too arrogant in a dangerous situation
Hmm.
or something like that, and so it ends up getting you killed because you're like, I've got this.
That's
Um,
like in Game of Thrones, that guy that was fighting the mountain.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
he was so
exactly.
arrogant. It never, and then his head got stepped on and squished, and
Hmm.
and he's dead and he's gone. And that, you're right, that was a lethal flaw that he had. His arrogance didn't even permit him to think of a scenario where he might die.
Absolutely,
And then
yeah.
he was dead.
And then he was dead. Yeah,
Yeah, crazy. So, how do you write flaws? I mean, first of all, you can go and Google examples of flaws. There are lists and lists and lists of them out there. But how do you actually go about writing it into your character?
right. Yeah,
So, you want to give your character a flaw that further enhances their features and personality and use that as a way to develop a more three-dimensional character.
yeah,
So, you know, it's important not just that your main character has flaws. You need to do this for all of your characters. And we've said this before. Every
yeah.
character that you put in your book is there for a reason and needs to not just be a placeholder, but a real person.
Absolutely. Because I mean, like you said, no one's perfect. It's gonna be everybody. Everybody should have flaws,
Hmm.
and I feel like it would be, very shallow and unrealistic in a novel, and it would pull me out of the book as a reader, if there was a character that just was not flawed, unless there was some reason for that.
And that's kind of part of the reason why we like to people watch. When we sit in an airport and people watch, these people are not characters in our lives. And yet we notice their little habits. And, that's one of the reasons I love to people watch, is because of the quirky things that they do. And, so you want all of the characters in your book to have reality attached to them. They're not just a placeholder because you need a person standing to block the way.
Absolutely.
You think about how to put that character in there. So yeah, think about the backstory of every, even side characters in your book.
Yeah.
And then in urban fantasy, I said every real life human has flaws. Well, even the non-humans have flaws. So, in
Yeah.
urban fantasy and fantasy, it might not be a human, but they're still going to have flaws. Like werewolves, they might have a temper. That's kind of a cliche thing that werewolves have those tempers.
Right. And I was thinking of that too, even though they're not, quote unquote human or whatever, I think they should still have those human flaws. Like you said, werewolf tempers, but maybe that werewolf also always had a temper before they were even a werewolf.
And yeah,
Right. Or
maybe that
excessive
made it
greed.
worse. Yeah.
Yeah, that leads to his downfall. Like something like that. Like I think everybody has their flaws. I think Adam in Mercy Thompson is very not uptight, but he's very controlling. And I think he was
Yes.
always very controlling. And
Mm-hmm.
being a werewolf just made that even worse.
It magnified it. And that's also something to think about if you are writing urban fantasy. What happens if you take a normal flaw and magnify it because of whatever happens to them? Are ghosts more of a certain way because of being dead or whatever? So yeah, that's a great way to think about flaws too, is what can you do with that flaw?
Yeah.
Greed is a flaw. How can you make that flaw unique? How can you make greed unique?
Right.
So interesting. Think about where your character begins and where you want your character to end. So if you want your character to defeat the evil wizard, their flaw might be an overwhelming fear of death. That's going to throw up all kinds of challenges for them to get to that end goal. So that
Right.
flaw is helping with your plot. It's helping with your character development. So flaws aren't just these little meaningless things. They have a role to play in your story.
Absolutely.
If you want your character to solve a murder mystery, their flaw might be an air of arrogance that discourages any character from sharing helpful information with them. Who's going to want to tell you anything if you're an asshole? I mean, honestly, right?
Yeah, I like that one. I feel like there's something about, self-fulfilling doom and just like poetic justice that speaks to me. So somebody, a detective that's like arrogant and haughty towards, the quote unquote lesser people, obviously, and gets screwed over in the end because of it. I just love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also No, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's hilarious to me, which I write the humor. And so to me, I can see a way to make that humorous.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's hilarious. I think overall this is a great tip though, like just knowing where you want your character to begin and end in your story. I think knowing, a general idea of their arc is a really good way to develop your characters, and it's going to help you determine which flaws, make a character who they are and what the story needs before you even write the thing. So
and you could use your journal for this too. If you want to list, go through some of the lists that you can find on the internet about, how would this particular flaw help or hinder my character arc that I'm trying to do.
definitely.
So yeah, think about that too, and use your journal. And we have an episode on journals. So go listen to that.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the flaw keeping your reader from engaging with your character. Apparently people worry that, but if I make him messy, people aren't going to like him. Or if I make him lazy, people aren't going to like him. But readers can actually forgive pretty much any flaw as long as they can sympathize with that character.
Right.
So you have to kind of show a motivation so that your reader understands why. And I pulled this actual thing out of, where did I get it from? Well Storied, which I think we've used them before.
I think we have, yeah.
They had some excellent examples. So a reader can forgive a character's rudeness if they understand that the character in question is afraid of appearing vulnerable after a lifetime of abuse.
True.
They can forgive a character's impulsiveness if the character was genuinely trying to do a good deed, and they can forgive a character's tendency to steal if the character takes from the rich to give to the poor, the whole Robin Hood thing.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. I think that's a really important point. You'd be surprised, uh, maybe not since we're all writers and readers, about what a reader will forgive. I definitely love some characters who have done despicable things and can see that they're flawed and they know how to work with those flaws. And I don't necessarily enjoy them as people if they've done horrible things, but I do enjoy the character.
To me, that brings me back. Remember the Thomas Covenant series that I've talked about, and how your dad could never get beyond. He was a reader who could not forgive
I don't know that I could either,
that guy,
though. Yeah.
but I understood him, and I think your dad understood him, but he never sympathized with him. Whereas I reached that sympathy level, so
Right.
that is what you're going for with your reader.
Right.
And motivation is the reason that so many people that watch Dexter, you remember Dexter Morgan on
Of
that?
course, I know
Of
Dexter
course.
Morgan.
I mean, he was a serial killer, but he was a serial killer who only killed other bad people, other murderers. And
Right.
so, and then like Ned Stark in Game of Thrones, he had this overzealous, well, I don't know what the word is, sense of honor, and it
Yeah.
caused him to make foolish mistakes, and he got his head chopped off.
Right. So that was a tragic flaw for him. Also, those are great examples. Those are
Hmm.
those are awesome.
And I got this off of Well Storied, so check
That
them
is
out.
super awesome site.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why I actually took those word for word, because they do a great job on that blog. Um, and then, as I was saying earlier, flaws can be used for humor, though that's my thing.
Yeah.
Um, Beck has a flaw of tending to act without thinking things through. She sees an immediate need and she wants to protect the kids, or she doesn't think through, what else is going on here? And it lends to very funny scenarios that she finds herself in.
She gets herself into some stuff. But I was thinking about that too, because I think Aiden could potentially fall into this also, except her flaw is more stubbornness. So she'll do just
Yes.
about anything to prove that she can, just because she can,
Mm-hmm.
and tell her no, and she'll do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't go well for her a lot of the time. So she gets herself into these funny, sticky situations.
Yeah. Yeah. I love writing. Ugh.
I do too.
Indiana Jones being afraid of snakes. That's a flaw, and he ends up finding himself in that situation surrounded by snakes, which was funny. I mean, you could use a flaw and not make it funny, but it just happened to be humorous the way they did it in Indiana
Right.
Jones.
Right.
Tyrion Lannister, I think Tyrion was the guy that drank all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he was this drunken, sarcastic character, and being a drunk, that t-shirt, I've got the t-shirt that says I drink and I know things. I
Yeah.
love him. And that lends humor, because he is so much smarter than everybody else around him, and his sarcasm goes over their head, and we are just loving it as the quote reader. So that's a humorous flaw. And
Definitely.
then Monk, the TV show, that's an old one. Do you
Oh
remember
yeah.
that one?
Oh, absolutely.
His OCD, although a very serious and tragic condition, the show made it funny.
Yeah.
They made that flaw not just a flaw that had a downside, but also a flaw that had an upside. And they made it funny. He didn't want to shake people's hands, and he didn't, and here he is in this position where he's helping the police, and he's like, I
I'm not going to shake your hand.
don't want to do this. And there's blood all over everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think of flaws in terms of humor, but that's just because that's the way I like to write.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then I've come up with an example of a couple. And like I said, I think we'll do many episodes
I
on
think so.
these in the
Yeah.
future. But like selfishness,
Mm.
that is a common one for that con artist type character, that rogue character. Think Han Solo.
Absolutely. I love those types of characters. I think they're a lot of fun to read about. It reminds me of one of my characters, Monroe, in my
And
Trickster
Mac,
novel. Yes.
yes, that's exactly who I was thinking of too.
Yeah, he's just out for himself. He's in it for the money. He'll do whatever he can to get another dollar in his pocket, kind of
But he's
thing.
so darn charming. You can't
I
help
know.
but love him.
I know.
Yeah, I like that flaw. It's when writing this flaw, you do need to consider what actions a character with this flaw would do and not do.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking of the flaws to anoint your character with, that's not quite the right word.
Anoint. Wow. I don't know that our characters would agree that it's like anointing them
I'm
with something.
anointing you with this lovely flaw.
I don't think they would agree with you on that. I think that's no.
But you do need to think about how would they react, and is that going to be contrary to where you're trying to get your character and the plot and all of that to go in this book. I mean, it
Right.
might be a great funny flaw, but if it doesn't work to move your story forward, then that's not enough reason to put it in there by itself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if you want to have a character arc where your character starts selfish and then ends up like kind of like Han Solo did, he went from being all about himself to actually loving other people as well.
Yeah.
And so it's a good place to know what kind of arc that you're looking at for your characters too, to know what flaws are going to work best with that.
Absolutely. And I was thinking about it today. I don't think I've ever written a main character with selfishness as a flaw. Not explicitly, at least. All of mine seem to be bleeding hearts, so they try to help people, and that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a flaw in itself. But
Mm-hmm. I've
never
had
selfishness.
secondary characters like
Same.
Bean, Sabina, and
Yeah, yeah,
Beck,
yeah.
and I love those characters. Sabina is selfish, but she can't help herself but try to help Beck, because Beck is this poor stupid mortal bouncing around like a pinball in the middle of this magical world that she knows nothing about. And so she can't help but, girl, you're going to get yourself killed. And so
Right.
she helps her, even though she is overwhelmingly selfish, but she is another one of those con artist, lovable type characters. I love Sabina. Um, the next one I thought is the goody goody.
The goody goody.
The person who is true to the idea of, they're so true to the idea of good that they can't see beyond it. So like the lawful good character, we did an episode on the alignments. We did several episodes on character alignment, like we
Yep.
think in D&D, and that applies to your novel writing as well. This character would be so bent on lawful good that they can't see beyond it to what is really happening, the
Right, right.
reality of the situation. And that is a great arc for character growth too, where they become aware of, so think of a zombie apocalypse world where, you shall not kill. I mean, that's an absolute black and white thing. You don't kill. But in a post-apocalyptical world, the rules are not the same. And
Yeah.
so, you've got to open your character's eyes and see that, maybe you do.
Yeah.
There is self-defense in those situations.
There's a way for there to be morally gray situations.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And it makes me always think of paladins. I do the D&D thing a
Oh,
lot, but paladins are often that way. And when you play their characters in D&D, they are very
yeah.
fun characters to play because they're so obstinately, no. You've got the rogue in the group who's like, let's pick that lock and see what's, no, you don't go
No.
into other people's area. No. And so they're fun to play.
Yeah, true, true.
But I had one more thing to say. Oh yeah, Truth or Dare. I know I've talked about this movie before.
Yes. Yeah.
So talking about how you can use this as an arc. I love the character. Who knew that a Truth or Dare horror movie, it's probably a grade B movie, but it did such a good job. It sticks in my mind as the greatest character arc ever.
Huh. I don't
And
think I've watched the version that you're talking about.
oh
I
my,
watched another one.
yeah, you watched there was more a Spanish history, I think, on that one, and it was good too. But
Yeah.
this one was, everyday kids. Eh, but she starts off as that good character, that goody goody character.
Yeah.
And as her story goes, her arc, that flaw, that too good flaw has to shift and change with the reality of what's going on in that movie.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Definitely good. Yeah, I was also thinking Delaney almost starts off as one of these types of characters, the goody goody, but I feel like her arc also brings her more towards the gray middle ground of
Mm-hmm.
morality.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
I start her off as like a no, we have to tell the police that things are wrong. We have to do this stuff. And Louis kind of pulls her in and is like, no, we can't because of this. And she's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely.
I like it. I like the goody goody character because I also am an optimist and believe in good, and that I believe I do have a moral code for good, but you also have to look at reality where, okay, so in Louis and Delaney, the police aren't necessarily good. You think that, cops are good, but when a mobster owns them,
Right.
you got a problem.
Right.
And to have a person who thinks no, all cops are good, have to shift to see, there may be some bad ones, even
Right.
though you don't want to believe that. It's effective. It's a very great arc that go, and
Yeah.
that flaw is a great way to move the plot forward, your character, because they believe, oh no, everybody's good. No one would ever do that. No one
Right.
would ever hurt anybody.
Right. Right.
And to have to face the fact that that's unfortunately not always true is a hard thing for these characters.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, Stubbornness. That was my last one.
Yeah.
And Beck has this, and more than one of your characters has this.
Well, I was
Um,
trying to think of that because Aiden definitely is stubborn.
I
She's
think
like
Mac
my
is.
coin stubborn. Yeah, Mac definitely is too. I think she, goes about her way and tries to accommodate, the people around her, but will also be like, no.
Yeah, she, like you said, she's tried to work with the police, but ultimately she has her own internal moral code
Right.
and has to do what she thinks is best, regardless of what the cops are telling her to do and regardless of what other people are warning her about. She knows what she has to do, and so I would call that stubbornness,
I agree. Aiden, though, is a different brand of
because
stubborn,
she's
I think.
she's true stubborn.
Yeah, and I'm writing her right now and she's fighting me every step of the way. Like it's like pulling teeth trying to write this book, not because I don't know the story and it's not a good story, but because she is like, "No, you're writing it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it that way. I wouldn't do it that way." And
Mm-hmm.
so she just like refuses to tell me the story. So I'm whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
she's a stubborn bitch.
So basically, think about whether you need to explain the flaw. I almost
Oh,
said the
yeah.
thaw. I'm like,
The thaw.
are we cold now or what? So some flaws may need a reason, especially major flaws, like, is self-consciousness there because they were bullied for being fat or ugly or whatever as a kid?
Right.
This is kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier about motivation, as long as your reader understands the motivation. But as you're writing it, think about whether that flaw, I mean, do you really need to explain why they bite their nails? Maybe you do. Maybe that flaw, maybe the biting of the nails is an indication of something that does need to be explained.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so
Um,
yeah,
I mean, I agree. You know, I don't think that all flaws necessarily need an explanation.
no, like the not having a sense of direction. That's just funny.
Yeah, that's just funny. Well, and then also, even if a flaw does have an explanation, you don't necessarily need to put
Have
it
to
in the
tell
story.
why. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. Like, people are the way they are for all kinds of different reasons.
And
Um,
it needs, if you're going to tell it, you need to have a reason. It needs to have an effect on your book.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like if it pertains to the plot, like add it in.
Right, right.
If it explains a character or adds to character development, then add it in.
Yeah. Or
Um,
if your reader is going to be pulled out and go, why the hell did they do that?
right.
Yeah. You got to add in why.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
think about what your story needs and then go from there. And I
Yeah.
think that's pretty standard for a lot of the tips that we give.
I think so. This was a fun topic. That's all I've got on the overall flaw category, but I do think that we've got many, 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 many MINI, MANY, MINI
Both.
episodes in the future.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I think there's a lot that we can talk about, even with just, how do you write a stubborn character? I'm
Yes.
obviously struggling with Aiden, who is just refusing to work with me. It's like, how do you write a stubborn character?
Hmm.
So I definitely think there's more we can do. I do have an interview question for you.
Okay.
What is your favorite flaw to write?
Ooh, I don't know that I have a favorite flaw. I just like the funny ones, the ones that I can make funny.
Yeah.
Beck has trust. She trusts these fairies. Why does she trust these fairies? They have never shown her any possible reason to trust them, but she does.
Yep.
And that's a flaw. And
Yeah.
that gets her
Oh,
into trouble.
absolutely.
And there's just so many funny things. I can't think of anything
I love
particular.
her just like, I'm gonna go do this thing. And people are like, no. And she's like, no, I'm gonna go do this thing.
Yeah.
I love it.
And she's doing it because she's a good person and it's what she
Yeah.
believes needs to be done. She's got to help these fairies. She's got to, and don't you pick on my fairies, and
Yeah.
stands up for them against creatures that she doesn't even know what they can do yet.
Yeah.
They could sizzle her with their eyeballs and she doesn't know, and she's still going to stand up and protect the fairies because that's what you do.
Absolutely.
So yeah, she doesn't think things through a lot.
Yeah. I think mine is somewhat similar because all of my characters have like I said earlier, a bleeding heart. They can't help but
Mm-hmm.
help people. Um, I almost want to say that stubbornness actually is my favorite one to write, even though I'm struggling so hard with it. That makes it
Mm-hmm.
so very fun. It's such a challenge to be writing this book right now because she's being so difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of fun. It's a fun flaw because she'll be like, oh, you told me no. I'm going to go do it specifically because you told me no.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very fun character to write.
That is fun.
I also have a sentence challenge for those of you who are interested in doing it. So I typically just write a page with the sentence that's given to me. And this week's is a bit of dialogue. So it's just look at me. I'm perfect.
Oh, I love that one. That one's sparking stuff right off the bat with me.
Yeah. So have fun with that one.
Yeah. Send us it in, blah, blah, blah. Email it to us. And at some point we are going to do an episode where we read these things out. We
do keep saying that. We'll do it. We'll do it at some point.
But yeah, best way to do it is to email it to us. You can get in touch with us at our website, which is www.eatdrinkrightpodcast.com. Wow.
Yep.
And it's got access to our email and stuff there. There's a link right there that you can email us with. We are on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all kinds of places. YouTube.
Yep.
That's where one of our patrons, Deanna, she contacts us through YouTube just about every week, which is awesome. We love her.
The most amazing comments. I love reading her comments.
I am so excited to read her book. I cannot wait.
Me too.
And
me too.
It's the EOS key. At least that's how I pronounce it. We'll have to ask her. It's EOS.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we will.
The EOS key. And I am very excited. She's got to be getting close. I can't wait for her to start submitting it.
I'm excited for it. Yeah.
And Jen also is a patron and helps support us. It takes time and effort. We try to get this to you as often as we can. It helps us, it helps you guys. So please support us if you can. And you can do that at the Patreon. It's patreon.com/EDW. You can do $1 a month, even whatever it is. It would help us tremendously. I mean, just the programming to do this, the editing programs, all of those things cost money. So come help us.
Yeah, definitely. But most importantly, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it.
Definitely. And we'll see you next week. Maybe sooner if I can't stop the recording.